I'm doing Keynote. Never done that before, so I have it. When they asked me to do the Keynote for this particular event, I had a lot of thoughts. One of the first was, isn't it in a church? But it'll be fine, I've decided. And then my second thought was, well, don't they know that all my poetry is about sex? And I didn't know how I was going to do that in this particular context. So that posed kind of a challenge. And so I thought a lot, and I thought about what a white trans kid could say about the deaths of women of color. And I still don't know. I wanted to thank the committee for trusting me to do this, and I'm not sure what I ended up with, because after writing, I started to realize, wow, this is kind of a bummer, what I'm writing right now, and then I thought, no, that's what it's supposed to be, it's what everybody's going to talk about, so it'll be fine. And then Dominique told me, we kind of want you to bring it all together and lift everybody back up. Dang it. How did I do that? So I don't think I did. So sorry about that. But what I did end up with was a little bit of thoughts about a huge topic, about a lot. A couple of notes about what I'm going to do. I don't caveat women or other gendered identities with trans, because I'm trusting that you all are thinking about women the way that I'm thinking about women, and that's women, like all women. And I bring that one up specifically because I did mention that in the talk. And also I'm going to speak from my experience because I tried to speak from other experiences and I couldn't. So I'm going to talk from U.S. lens, because that's my experience, and two, because I think the legacy and persistence of U.S. colonialism around the rest of the world is important to acknowledge, and the way that we affect the lives of other people in the rest of the world. And because I think that what we're dealing with here, more than just transphobia, what we're dealing with about racism, about misogyny in general, are things that people deal with all over the world. And also in terms of my experience, I work in schools. I work in a school here in Salt Lake, so when I talk about kids, those are the kids I'm talking about. And then I just wanted to offer a trigger warning about, I'm going to talk about suicide and self-harm, and I think there's a possibility that I will swear at something. Try not to, but it could come up. Just saying, saw a couple of children around. Be aware. The full list for Trans Day of Remembrance this year is 71 pages long. 71 pages. 71 pages of names and dates and faces. Faces that are mostly brown, mostly poor, mostly young. 71 pages of hate. And the worst part is that it could be so much longer than it is now. This list would be longer if we included the names of every person who didn't wait for someone else to write their name down. The ones who found that you can spell hope just as easily with pills and rope as you can with a pen. Who know that when you write love letters to your veins, they'll give you everything. They'll sing you a soft, sweet ballad when you walk by that sounds nothing like the words you're used to hearing, like the words you used to hear when you were here. Anyone who thinks that the delicate red cursive that 17-year-old William has been signing into his flesh, that the scarred drawings on his chest look like wedding bells, isn't looking hard enough. It's hard enough to be 17 in America, but if you're 17 and poor, 17 and brown, 17 and trans, 17 and undocumented, 17 and just weird, then it's just enough. enough. Enough of marriage, enough of military service, enough of just like you. Isn't it enough that we can't go to the hospital, that we can't find places to live, that we have to work without fair wages or benefits? Isn't it enough that some of us live in constant fear of back alleys and Thanksgiving dinners, that we fear strangers just as much as we fear our neighbors? Isn't it enough that people are festering alone in jail cells for crimes they didn't or had to commit, running their fingers over their hearts, trying hard to find the impressions left there at birth? The ones that adorn the muscles of our hearts and start with our name and end with all of our days. In solitary confinement, protective isolation, these impressions are worn down by fingertips, calloused from strumming heartstrings in silence, worn down nearly smooth after months of seeking, of comforting, of mourning. This list, this 71-page list, is a remembrance, an honor, but most of all, it's a warning. It's a reminder that racism and misogyny and transphobia don't start with murder. They don't start with suicide. They don't start on street corners. They don't start in the dark. They're inside everything, everything we accept and dismiss. This list would be longer if we included the names of every little boy who hides pink fingernails in the safety of his palms, and of every little girl who only sees his fingers curled into a fist when he does. Five-year-old Kylia doesn't understand that when she spits the word girl at 6-year-old Drake, like it's a 4-letter word, that she's strengthening his trigger finger, his half-cocked already trigger finger that points girl right back at her. Only this time, it's not through eyes but sights that he sees her. Sights that I see here in these kids, in this school every day. When I ask her if she doesn't like to be a girl, if she doesn't like girls, if it's bad to be a girl, she looks at me confused and tells me no, but he's a boy. Well, is it bad to be a boy, I ask her. She goes back to coloring. I'm the one who doesn't understand. I'm the one who stands against all the boyness and the girlness they were taught to believe in. And even though she's only 5, and even though she doesn't mean it, and even though it's not her fault, in her face, I can see fault lines that run up and down the coasts of our culture, whose tremors build mountains in the landscapes of our history, fault lines, the kinds that line caskets of brown girls like her who dare to grow up into women of color in America. I see 23-year-old Gianni, who caught girl on her tongue in the winter and let it melt behind her teeth like snow, who felt it flow down and meet the pit in her stomach and grow there, where branches and leaves take root, shoot up through her rib cage and out of her pores, seeking sunlight they pour out into the night air, and all at once, I regret every wish I ever made on a star that would rather shoot than fall. If all it takes is little children trading gender-like insults to solve the wounds of every person on this list, then what will it take to season the rest of us with hatred? There's one thing that we overlook when we talk about transphobia. I'm angry. When we talk about transphobia, about xenophobia, phobia means fear. Not our fear, but theirs. They're afraid of us. We spend so much time trying to teach those who antagonize and bully us, who legislate and regulate us, who kill us, that they have nothing to be afraid of. Why? As far as I'm concerned, we're afraid all the time. They should fear us. We can be the raspy voice they hear when they tuck their children into bed at night. We're the blood rushing to their arms and legs during fight or flight. We just spent such a long time reading the names of 265 people who died, who were killed because of transphobia, misogyny, racism, xenophobia that run rampant and unchecked in our culture and in dominant cultures all over the world. They need to hear us now. Not to better themselves, not because they want to be our allies, but because they don't have a choice anymore. Because we don't have a choice anymore. 71 pages. They need to know that we are onto them, that we know all the ways that they have violated us, and we will read them in detail, name after name, year after year, rage after inconsolable rage, until school children recite these names, recite these same lists with their hands over their hearts, until these names are anthem. Anthem. And school children, I'm angry, and I'm frustrated, and I don't want equality, I want justice, and I'm not the kind of person that talks about love and its ability to conquer. I'm the kind of person that balks at smiles and kindness. But then, I think about little Kylia and little Drake, both kids who make me smile every day. The way Kylia will share her lunch with any other kid but her big sister. And Drake, who doesn't think twice about calling me mister because he just wants me to be a boy like him. Who sometimes, just for fun, trades glasses with me to see what it'll look like when he grows up. Close up, they're both good kids. Kids who both genuinely just want to be good. Kids who feel happy when they're nice and sad when they're mean. I know what it means to feel anger and compassion at the same time. I don't know what it means to try to rhyme rage and justice with empathy, but I know that I should try. Because these kids whose futures will be shaped by racism, by misogyny, by the same cis supremacist attitudes that mine was, that mine is. We're not the same. Our spines will bend differently, break differently. Our bones will intertwine differently as we grow. But I know that right now, these kids feel more like a we than a they. Maybe if I love them, maybe if I teach them to love each other, not the whole world, not trans people, just each other. And I know, swearing, I know it's cheesy, and I know it's probably hopeless, and I know I'm only one person, and there are only two kids, and I know that kids just like them grow up to be perpetrators and victims every day. But maybe, if I can help Drake and Kylia to love each other, to respect each other, to see each other as just as human as they are themselves, maybe that's enough. Maybe that will be enough to start a new list. This list is 71 pages long. 71 pages of hate and fear and inequity and shame. But yesterday, I caught Drake writing Kylia's name carefully inside a pencil heart. And that seems like a pretty good start.